good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Graham Stevens. I am a project manager with the Social Studies Department, and I'm incredibly excited for y'all to be here in our webinar for our Q3 content training with World Cultures. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Social Studies Q3 content training. During our last session together, we focused on the importance of spiraling to mastery, keeping the content on students' radars through questioning and connecting content from one lesson to the next. And we are looking to continue this through our Q3 content training today. So if you would, take a quick moment, pause this video to access our participant guide, which is a forced copy, by using either the QR code as you see on the screen or typing in the bit.ly link that is in the box right there on your screen. Today, we will focus on continuing to help students learn as historians throughout the school year to ensure student mastery. Meet the Social Studies small but mighty team under the leadership of Dr. Elena Hill. We have Shalon Bond, our director, Athena Newton, the elementary coordinator, Irene Lyons, the middle school coordinator, Cicely Williams, the high school coordinator, Shirley Steele, social studies coordinator, myself, the project manager, and our amazing administrative assistant, Martha Castillo. Please feel free to contact our department if you have any questions or need assistance. The Social Studies Department's boots on the ground are the instructional lead coaches known as the ILCs. Sabrina Green, supporting middle and high schools in Region 1. Bilal Khalid, supporting middle and high schools in Region 4. James Hutchinson, supporting middle and high schools in Region 2. And all three of these amazing instructional lead coaches support Regions 3 and 5. Let's take a quick moment, pause on this screen here to check out our norms and community agreements. So while you're going through this webinar, you have the opportunity in your participant guide to take any notes that you would like to jot down and remember, or to reach back out to us and ask for any clarification or any assistance that you may need while you are implementing these amazing social studies instructional resources. Here is our agenda for today. We have 3 quick pieces. We are going to be talking about historians or influencers. On the piece here, we will be practicing with a few of our instructional resources, the social studies toolkits, and then giving you the opportunity to implement this practice before you bring it up in front of your students. Here are our district core values. They are effective instruction. Our Tier 1 instruction will yield on or above grade level achievement. Equitable access and outcomes. All at-risk students will succeed with equitable access and opportunity. And excellence. We are committed to continually pursuing excellence. Our Social Studies Department vision and mission. This is the what and the how we will do what we need to be doing with social studies. So vision, all Dallas ISD students think critically, engage civically, and connect globally. And how we are going to be doing that is through our mission, by providing intentional support and growth opportunities in social studies. And that's why we are here today. Now let's take a quick moment and pause with our Social Studies Department philosophy. Social studies is vital for students to understand who they are and how to best navigate their lives by making decisions as confident, knowledgeable, civically engaged members of society. So here's a question for you to think about and reflect on. How are you leading your teachers and team to successfully bring the philosophy to life? Take a quick moment, jot that answer down in your participant guide. We will continue to move on. All right, so you may be wondering, why are we here? It's QCT3, it's the end of the year. We're ready to keep on moving, maybe get to winter break here soon. But we are here because it is our job to inspire and to get students excited about processing historical information in our classrooms. With this in mind, we are responsible for creating responsible citizens, ready to know how to make informed decisions. So you may be asking yourself, how? That's a great question. And the answer is by teaching students to think like a historian. What makes the PD different? Well, the Social Studies Department has adopted tools that will help students with thinking like a historian in Dallas ISD. If you are doing the heavy lifting during class, then you are doing the learning. So we have to put that learning on our students and the heavy lifting on our students. So how can primary sources help us know the truth? So now we're starting to dig into this. Take a quick moment and pause and answer this in your participant guide or bounce some ideas around in your head. So how can primary sources help us know the truth? First, because they were created at the time of a historical event. To get an idea of what historical actors thought about the events that they were living through. A current focus on disciplinary literacy has brought primary sources back. And last, they respond to the mistaken belief that by using primary sources, you can avoid controversy and bias. So these could have been some of the answers you were thinking about or writing down on your participant guide. All right, quick little hook that we just went through here. So now we're going to jump into our learning objective and our 3 success criteria. So our learning objective is, I am applying Hippo, Optic, and the 4-question method, 4QM, as it's called, to equip students with the vital tools to think as historians. So how we're going to be doing that, our 3 success criteria are, I can differentiate between a historian and an influencer. Second, I can use Hippo, Optic, and 4QM with district-provided resources. And third, I can implement Hippo, Optic, and 4QM, 4-question method, during quarter 3 to ensure students can think like a historian. So now our very first learning objective, let's go ahead and get started. Applying Hippo, Optic, and 4QM to equip students with the vital tools to think as historians. So please make sure that you have your participant guide open. We're going to take a quick jump into fact or fiction, and this could be used as a hook activity that will get students interested in learning about Africa and the Middle East, while also using a variety of maps, charts, and graphs. So take a moment and think about the 4 statements on this slide. Are they fact or are they fiction? Write your answers on your participant guide. So take a moment, pause this video, answer or determine if these 4 statements are fact or fiction on your participant guide. And we will go ahead and figure out which are real and which are fake. So first, Africa's land is mostly desert and rainforest with little grassland. That is false. 55% of Africa is savanna grassland, 25% is desert and growing, and 10% is rainforest and shrinking. So we're going to be using this map to show that. A lot of savanna grassland. Second, most Africans speak the same language. False. Many Africans speak a tribal language and a European language, so a lot of dual language in Africa, and we see that with this chart here. Third, Africa is a poor land with very few natural resources. Could not be further from the truth. Africa has a vast natural resources, including 60% of the world's diamonds, including all the things that you see here on this map, whether it is coffee, tea, copper, those resources, iron, ore, cotton, uranium, fishing, clothing, and textiles, tons and tons of natural resources that Africa has. And last, Africa is the 2nd largest continent in the world. That is true. That is a fact. Africa is the 2nd largest continent in the world, right behind Asia. So one thing we need to think about is, why is it important for us to know the complete and accurate story about a place or a region. We'll take a quick moment, reflect on that. Why is it important for us to know the complete and accurate story about a place or a region? And then following up on that, how can primary sources help us know the truth? Things to think about as we continue to move through our presentation today. All right, we have another question for us to ponder as we are moving through. What is the difference between a historian and an influencer? So take a quick moment, pause, answer this in your participate guide. What is the difference between a historian and an influencer? So let's go through these two pieces right here. So a historian, when we're thinking about what a historian does, they analyze different sources. They may have a toolkit to gather information. For us specifically with Dallas ISD, we have HIPPO, OPTIC, our artifact analysis. They also identify biases, points of view, and credibility. Now, what a influencer may do, they may reference and use social media. They are pushing their own brand or creating their own brand. They search for others' brands and trends. They have production equipment, camera, lighting, and fashion, things like that. Or they could also be using that pay teachers. So thinking about using primary sources, many influencers often sell information to others, whether accurate or not. Historians attempt to collect factual information to tell the story. So are we saying that being an influencer is bad? No, not at all. Actually, putting these two things together is a great opportunity, being a historian and being an influencer for your students. So historians get the facts, influencers could be selling a perspective, as long as we are, again, following that last bullet point on historian, identifying the biases, the points of view, looking at credibility, looking at it that way. All right, we have reached our very first success criteria. So hopefully we can say, check, yes, I can differentiate between a historian and an influencer. All right, moving into our second piece of this training today, we're going to be looking at a little bit of data for our ACP semester 2, and this is from last year. So based on historical data for quarter 3 and our scope and sequence, we will obviously be focusing on Africa and the Middle East. However, I want to call out 2 very specific TEKs that I want to be focusing on for the remainder of the session. That is 5B that we can see here, which is a pretty low performing standard, as well as 4B, another low performing standard. And this is on grade level. It's also the same as with our honors. So we have 4B, a little bit better performing, but 5B is still low performing as well. And 5B is stating that students will be able to identify and analyze ways people have adapted to the physical environment in various places and regions. So tying in that physical geography and human geography. And 4B is stating identifying geographic features such as location, physical features, transportation corridors and barriers, and distribution of natural resources that influence a society's political relationships. So not only are we looking at geography, but we're also dealing with the government interactions, the political interactions of a region or of an area. So let's look on a way to address both of these standards. Let's go ahead and set the stage. So how we could be addressing both of these standards would be, here's a great hook right now. Let's begin with a model of a hook for a lesson on Africa and the Middle East. So I will first model OPTIC. And OPTIC stands for Overview, Parts, Title, Interrelationships, and Conclusion. So this is a great way to break down any kind of image. That's OPTIC. So this image is from the Berlin Conference during the quote unquote, that Scramble for Africa time period. So as we are looking at this image, the first thing that we are going to be completing on our optic graphic organizer is going to be the title. So we first have to identify what that title is. And the title of this image is the caricature of the Berlin Conference, 1884 to 1885. So that tells us what is the name of this meeting and when it is taking place. Next, we have the parts. So these are the important details. So as we noted here, there are 7 white men dressed in suits sitting at a table. The man standing is wearing a military uniform, holding a knife. He is getting ready to cut a cake titled Afriku. So after we complete the parts, just labeling what images or what characters are in the image, we move to interrelationships. So the cake represents Africa, which is about to be divided or portioned out to be colonized or controlled by these maybe European countries. After we finish the interrelationships, so that's how the parts are working together. So the overview, and the overview is the image is about 7 white men and how to divide or portion Africa for themselves and the countries that they may represent. Last, we get to the conclusion. In conclusion, Africans will not have any say in who will be colonizing or controlling their land. So this is a great way of looking at an image and breaking it down piece by piece. First, starting with title, then we move into parts, then into relationships, because we're seeing how the title and the parts could be working together, and then finally the overview and the conclusion. So you have an opportunity to scaffold with this as well if you're introducing this to your students for the very first time. You could scaffold by modeling the title and the parts first. Practice that for a week and then add 2 more, get into the interrelationships and then the overview and then add in the conclusion, because the conclusion is obviously going to be what is ultimately happening in this picture, or what maybe historical ramifications is coming from this image here. So a great way to bring in Africa and the Middle East when you're kind of diving into that human geography, the history, later on, it could be using this image and optic. So moving on, in a potential lesson could be using HIPPO for a reading. And so HIPPO stands for historical context, intended audience, point of view, purpose, and outside information. So I'm going to model using HIPPO for an opportunity during your new learning with Africa and the Middle East. So please pause, skim this for the next maybe minute or so. We'll come back and I will provide a little think aloud while we go through this graphic organizer right here. All right, thank you for skimming that. And let's go ahead and begin going through here. So after you were skimming through this, this is a huge overview of the age of imperialism and how Africa is going to be colonized economically, militarily, and politically by Europeans from the beginning of the 1400s all the way up until the mid-1900s almost. So historical context, the historical background is from the 1400s to the 1800s, Europeans have been exploiting the resources and people of Africa. The intended audience. The document targets students or readers seeking to gain surface information about the age of imperialism in Africa. So this isn't a particular article written by someone. It is from Active Classroom, and it was, the title is The Age of Imperialism and Imperialism in Africa. So the intended audience is just to gain more information. The point of view, although the author is unknown, the author believed that the age of imperialism negatively impacted the continent of Africa economically, militarily, and politically. When we look at the purpose, the author's goal was to just provide information and background on the age of imperialism in Africa. And so these are the 2 things that are going to change a little bit when you're going from one source to another, the intended audience as well as the purpose. And that's going to, including the point of view, but what the author's goal is, or who is the author writing directly towards. So those are going to be those three things that are going to continually change. The thing last is the outside information. This was in response to the study of how the continent of Africa has progressed since the 1400s. So there we have an overview of Optic and Hippo. And that is activating that prior knowledge without outside information. So now an opportunity for you all to practice. So we will now transition to the guided practice portion of the lesson. You all will have time to practice using Optic and or Hippo. Using the Think Like Historian toolkit, analyze the documents by accessing the Implementing the Practice World Cultures doc in your participant guide. So that is a forced copy, and you will have 4 different pages, whether they are Optic or Hippo, to go through and complete this on your own time. So I will give you the opportunity to pause this video and work on that for about 5 minutes. Or if you want to complete all of those, this is at your own pace, so you're more than welcome to complete that as you will. And I will give you the opportunity to pause on this now. We'll be back. All right, great work. So now we are just going to quickly overview the Optic and the Hippo opportunities that you had. So this is a physical map, a land cover map of Africa, a great opportunity to use Optic. So again, looking at the overview, the parts, the title, interrelationships, and the conclusion, having our students become stronger at reading maps. The next opportunity is a historical map of Africa from 1897. So again, tying back into the scramble for Africa, potentially the Berlin Conference, or the effects of the Berlin Conference, using those same 5 pieces. And we have a Hippo opportunity. So this is a reading over the physical geography of Africa, which is, I thought, always a great opportunity to give students an overview of the area, the region, the place that they are going to be learning about. So now that we have gathered our evidence, this is an opportunity for us to practice putting the story together by using the 4-question method. So we could use an image we've previously used, or I always love connecting to current events. So how could we connect these past events to current events? So looking at these 4 questions, but what happened? What is going to be happening? That is our narration piece. What were they thinking? First off, who is they? So are we talking about people in Africa? Are we talking about people in Europe? And what are they thinking? What are their goals? What are their intentions of in this image here, or the image that you would be using? Question 3 would be the why, then, and there. Why at that time? Why in this place? So that is kind of that explanation piece. And finally, putting it back on our students. What do we think about that? Having our students voice their opinions and kind of get their emotions out is a great opportunity to bring our history to life, social studies to life. So just an opportunity for you all to do that. So you can go ahead and pause, think through these 4 questions. This is our 4-question method, and you can go ahead and pause now. All right, so you may be wondering, where can we find primary sources or secondary sources? They may be hard to come by, they may be hard to bring in front of your students, but on your participant guide, you have links to all of these different resources, and you can also access them on Clever. These resources are great to find primary and secondary sources, as well as scaffolded resources for all students. For our Tier 1, we have Studies Weekly with our K through 5 kiddos, and then we have our textbooks. For Tier 2 and Tier 3, Active Classroom and Discovery Ed are amazing. Active Classroom, those have been all the maps that we've been using in this presentation so far. But maps, readings, different activities, really, really great source of information here. Discovery Ed is one that we are also really happy about. This is, you are able to type in any topic into their search bar and receive a ton of different sources, whether it's videos or readings or images. Discovery Education is a great, great tool to bring to your kids. So now let's go ahead and hopefully check off this last success criteria. I can use Hippo, Optic, and 4QM with the district provided resources. All right, our next steps. So now that we have practiced how to use the Thinking Like Historian toolkit, let's take this time to plan how to incorporate this practice into an upcoming lesson for quarter 3. And our quarter 3 topics, we are covering all of Africa and the Middle East. So that covers physical geography, human geography, government, economy, and culture. And then we are covering the first half of South, Southeast, and East Asia with the physical and human geography, as well as the government. So quarter 3 is a lot going on here, but 2 incredibly just a wealth of history and a wealth of, places in general. We're talking about the 2 largest continents on Earth right here, just in quarter 3. So some pretty cool opportunities we have with our students. So walking right into our instructional practices. Which quarter 3 lesson will you use the Thinking Like a Historian toolkit in your classroom? So that would be that 4QM, the 4-question method, Hippo for our readings, primary or secondary sources, and Optic, again, for primary or secondary sources, but for images. So using the district resources or your own resources, select a topic to implement the Thinking Like a Historian toolkit in quarter 3 lesson, into a quarter 3 lesson. Take this time to explore how you can implement Hippo, Optic into your upcoming lessons. You may use the participant guide to record your opportunities. So now you have an opportunity to pause the video, begin working on that. And again, this time is yours. But again, really trying to walk away with how you're going to really approach the Thinking Like a Historian toolkit in one of your quarter 3 lessons. All right, so hopefully we have that quarter 3 lesson and or topic knocked out using the Thinking Like a Historian toolkit. So our question is, which quarter 3 lesson or topic will you use the Thinking Like a Historian toolkit? And so our STEM is, I will implement the Thinking Like a Historian toolkit into my classroom by... And you can give a thumbs up in your screen when you have completed your sentence. Share this out, share it with your PLC or with a fellow teacher. And then make sure that you record this on your participant guide and make sure this happens. Yeah, we've gone over some great information today with the Hippo Optic 4QM. Bringing this to your students is going to be really, really valuable. So this will take us through our last success criteria. I can implement Hippo, Optic, and 4QM during quarter 3 to ensure student mastery. Last little bit of information is a quick plug for the Model United Nations Conference. This theme is the International Year of the Camelid. It is going to be held on March 20th, 2024. We really have an awesome program set up here for you all and for your students. So this is an opportunity to have your students share their knowledge of a chosen country by creating a trifold board. They are going to become diplomats, channeling their inner UN ambassador and tackling global issues such as the International Year of the Camelid, which you can find out more information here, all while celebrating these fascinating camels, llamas, and alpacas. The Hump Day Happiness, learn about the incredible contributions of camelids to the world economy, ecology, and culture. We have speakers Lisa Van Slet of the Dallas Zoo and Tim Beach, who is a professor at UT Austin, coming to our conference to speak to our students, to really show how important these camelids are to our world. So who knew these humpbacked heroes were such unsung MVPs? So if you are interested in registering today, please scan that QR code. You will be prompted to just fill out a quick survey, and then you can select your country that you would like to be researching along with your students. And again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, Graham Stevens. And